What is up, Toyota fans? This is Andrew from Trail Runner Customs. Today we're going to be doing a full replacement of the window trim on my 2006 Toyota Sequoia. The trim I have on my Sequoia right now is peeling and breaking, and it's showing the silver underlay on it. It's also extremely sun-faded and just overall worn and ratty looking. Even on the driver's side, where a few months ago I tried to repair the trim myself using some super glue and spray paint, it's already starting to crack again and peel and is in major need of some restoration. So let's go ahead and start taking this off. Taking the trim off of the driver's side ended up being easier than the other side just because I recently took this trim off, so it was already a little bit loose. I'm pulling up on it to pull the clips away from the door panel itself, and then I pull to the right because it does slide in under the mirror, the side mirror. There's the clips on the back, and as you can see, it's very dirty and somewhat broken, even on the back side, which is kind of crazy. Now onto the rear trim piece. Now the rear piece itself is a whole lot easier in terms of removal and replacement. There I am just lifting up on it, and it's not slid under anything, so it comes right out. These white clips you see here are probably going to be left behind on the majority of the trim pieces you remove, and they can be pretty difficult if you don't know exactly how to remove them, so let's go over that. Now these clips are hard to get out, and as you can see, I struggled and struggled some more and tried a bunch of tools, and it was extremely long, but I finally figured it out. So I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. I found by far the easiest way is to lift up a little bit with your finger on it and then slide the screwdriver in between the clip and the door panel itself and push back a little bit. And doing that method, it just came right out. Taking the trim out on the other side was a lot more difficult. I ended up having to use a screwdriver to kind of pry up under the trim itself just because it was clipped on there so well. I would recommend using a trim tool if you have it, but I had to use a screwdriver and pry it basically up so it would come unclipped from the door. I kind of blocked it in the video, unfortunately, but that's what I did. Once the driver's side is unclipped, you just need to wiggle it back and forth, and it should slide out of there little by little, just like that. As you can see, it's very dirty. Moving to the last trim piece, there I am again with the screwdriver. Again, use a trim tool if you have one. I just kind of get up there and pry it straight up, and then take off the clips from there. And good news, I found a nice new home for this super old trim. Now that the trim's off, I would highly recommend that you clean the area under it, even if it's just a wet rag. It doesn't have to be soap and water or anything like that. I wouldn't want to get too much water down in the door panel itself, so I just did, like I said, a damp cloth, damp towel, and just wiped away the debris and let it dry. There's also just something super satisfying about cleaning off this dirt that's been here for who knows how long. It really just, gives you peace of mind and makes you feel good about the work you're doing. Now while that's drying, I went ahead and grabbed the trim kit. Of course, we do sell this on trailrunnercustoms.com. It's a very high quality kit, but it's still on the budget side. You're going to save a lot of money compared to spending $400 or $500 for OEM parts. On to installing the new trim. Now doing this isn't particularly difficult. The two things you will need will be a rubber mallet to kind of tap in the front parts of the door trim. The rear ones are really easy, but the front is a little more difficult. Like I said, the two things you'll need is a rubber mallet and patience. Now that sounds kind of cliche, but for the front ones, you're going to have to kind of wedge the end towards the mirror into the hole a little bit, and then once it's in there a tiny bit, you kind of bend the new trim so that you can put some of the white clips like a little bit down in there. Right there is a perfect example of what I'm doing. And then I grab my mallet and I tap it in. Now, what this is doing is sliding the end of the trim up under the mirror because the end right there next to the mallet has to sit flush with the door. So here I am, just like I said, being patient, tapping it and moving it around, just making sure it gets all the way in there. That way it fits correctly. So I just keep tapping it and moving it down. I'm trying to, again, get it flush with the door frame. There's also a big clip under the right-hand side, which I'll show in a minute. But just working it down, and then at this point, I'm still trying to line everything up just because I want it to be very nice and new. And so there, I take my mallet and tap it down, which allows the clips to slide into place on the door. If I would to do this later, I would say definitely put like a towel or something down if you're going to hit it on the top with a mallet like I did, just because you don't want to accidentally scuff up anything. But yeah, that was the first driver's side. Now the back passenger side, is extremely simple. You just need to line the clips up, the main one being the black clip on the left-hand side. Again, make sure those clips go in the door frame, and then once you have everything lined up, you flip it in the correct position. Make sure it lines up on the left and right hand ends, and then you just give it one firm push down, and that is literally it. It is super easy, and then you can move on to the other side. Now on the passenger side, I went straight for the front door just because it is more difficult. So I lined up the hole, I opened the door a little bit for better leverage, and just began tapping with the mallet just to make everything slide in there. Opening the door was more helpful because it kind of gave me a better angle to hit the trim. And as I was going, I just made sure that the white clips were going on the door panel the best they could and making sure everything was aligned. Something I noticed on this side, the door panel was a little bit tighter to the mirror, and it was causing this top little tiny rubber piece to kind of peel off. You'll see it's going off right there as I'm hammering it in. But that is no issue. All it does is just make sure there's a really tight fit by shaving off the excess. And that part of the trim is behind the mirror anyways, so it doesn't have any cosmetic implications. Right here, I'm just finishing up with the mallet, driving it in to make sure it is flush with the side of the door. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the front ones. They might seem a little intimidating at the start, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually super easy. Oh, and this is a better look of the big clip I was talking about. As you can see, it's just a little bit shy of where it needs to be, so I had to tap it a couple more times with the mallet. I quickly got it in place and gave it a few extra taps just to make sure everything was sitting exactly where it needed to be. And of course, the rear trim took like 5 seconds. Now I went ahead and gave the trim a quick wipe down with some all-purpose cleaner just to get rid of any of the dust / fingerprints and dirt, anything like that off the trim, make it look really new, and I really think it turned out great. So this is it. This is the finished product here, just a couple shots of that. The trim really does make my first generation Sequoia look that much better. It just looks a whole lot more new, and the high quality trim is a huge difference as opposed to the old ratty sun faded trim. Even from up close and afar, you can definitely tell a huge difference, and I was extremely surprised at just how much better it made my Sequoia look. If you guys have been following the channel, you know I've been working extremely hard to restore this old 2006 Sequoia. I've been having to do a lot of work on the inside and outside as far as fixing and upgrading things. And the last thing I was really missing for the exterior was some new trim. So I figured I would offer a kit for you guys to use so you can do the same thing to yours. This Sequoia trim set is available on my website along with some other Sequoia upgrades. So feel free to take a look at those. And as always, I appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next one. If you're looking to upgrade your Sequoia or earlier Toyota, feel free to check out the link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.